getting old. I went to Emory Law School and graduated in the last century. And I was a prosecutor for about 3.5 years. And that's sort of where I learned both to love trying cases to juries and also got fairly good at it. It's a different experience. When I left my work as a prosecutor, I went into civil practice. And the first firm that I worked for, I did a great variety of work. I did employment discrimination work, I did civil rights work, and of course, complex personal injury work as well. That over the course of the next 10, 15 years, I had the opportunity to try cases in Florida, in Virginia, in Tennessee, and of course, throughout Georgia. And I tried those cases in a variety of fields. I also had the opportunity to handle appeals in both the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, 7th Circuit, which are both federal courts, of course, and of course, Georgia's appellate courts. That breadth of experience, not just in trying cases in front of juries in a lot of different places, but also trying cases that had different fact patterns, right? Different legal issues in play, whether it was a discrimination case or whether it was a police misconduct case or just car wreck. That breadth of experience, I think, is unique. And it's one of the things we really take pride in at Worshire, Woodward, and Atkins. Our experience is it's unparalleled. You will not find lawyers in Georgia who have had just the breadth of experience that we have had doing what we do, because we love it. I mean, I love representing people, and I love trying cases to juries and feeling like I'm fighting, for my client. I hope I'll be able to do it for a lot longer. I'll steal this from a good friend of mine, a mediator, who shared this with me, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years ago at a mediation. I was frustrated because the other side wasn't seeming to value the case the way I thought they should. And I was pretty young back then. I was still in my late 20s, I guess. And the mediator looked at me and he said, Bill, people need to think of you when you get a case. You should think of it as you're on a train. There's only one stop, and the stop is courthouse. And you're going to just keep on that track, and you're going to keep going to that courthouse. And the only thing that's going to stop you is if the other side decides to plunk enough money down to fairly compensate your client ahead of time. And unless they do, you're a one-way train. Not a runaway train, but a one-way train. I have always approached my cases that way since that time. From the moment a client walks in the door, I begin to think about what would this case look like if we had to go try it? What are the appealing qualities? Who is my client? And then everything you do from that point forward has to be focused that way. You sort of start at the back end and then come forward and work your way through a case that way. This is a hard job. It's hard work. It often requires late nights and a real commitment to seeing things through from start to finish. I enjoy writing. I've done a lot of brief writing over the years, in part because I've spent so much time in federal court. So that's something I take a great deal of pride in, and I think is something that we do better than a lot of places. So that's it. I mean, basically, my job is to work as hard as I can and as efficiently as I can to get to a result that's fair for the client. So it's probably the biggest thing that's happened to me in my personal life outside the office in the last year and a half or so has been the birth of my first granddaughter. Bryn Hal Brennan was born in Boise, Idaho at 26 weeks, which is a little early. Her mother, fortunately, was at the hospital because she'd had some blood pressure issues. They were able to rush her in because it was really a matter of life and death for both mother and a child. Bryn spent the first 6 months of her life in the NICU. And as fate would have it, in October of that year, I was at a conference and met a nurse who worked in the NICU at Stanford. And I told her about Bryn, and she said, we have a program that is perfectly set up for someone with her issues. Obviously, Bryn's lungs hadn't developed, and so she was on oxygen, a whole host of things that come along with being born that early. So we kept that in reserve, and in December, when she had a little setback and my stepson was looking for a second opinion, I mentioned it to him, and he called, and they got a return call within 45 minutes. And the next thing you know, they were being air flighted to Palo Alto, where they spent 3 months. And the treatment she got there really kind of got her over the hump. And I can report that she's doing incredibly well. And as of yesterday, was taken off oxygen full time. So now she looks like any other little girl. And we're really blessed that there were no a lot of times there's deficits from brain injuries essentially and whatnot. She's gonna always have some lung issues, but otherwise she's in great shape. And I tell that story because other than the fact that obviously she's like a little miracle, but we do medical malpractice work. And I think it's important when you do this kind of work to remember healthcare professionals are not bad people, and they save lives. And what these medical professionals did, both at St. Luke's Hospital in Boise and what they did at Stanford, saved the little girl's life and has given her an opportunity for a normal life. I never forget that when I do my work. Doctors, nurses make mistakes, and when they make mistakes, they need to be held accountable. But they're not terrible people. I think it's important to remember that. And that can sometimes be very hard for clients, but that personal experience has reminded me of that, right? Everybody's human. Everybody makes mistakes. And when you make a mistake, you should be held accountable. It doesn't make you any less human. So anyway, that's Brent.